Hello, my friends, and welcome to the 10-Minute Book Talk. We are three best-selling authors who spend 10 short and sweet minutes talking with you all things bookish every week. And as always, my fellow hostesses with the mostesses are the talented Rachel Linden, Katherine Reay, and today we have the distinct pleasure of interviewing Bryn Turnbull, whose new book came out in February, and it is absolutely wonderful. It's called The Last Grand Duchess. This young lady is on fire. It's only her second book, and this book has gotten a starred review from Booklist. I'm super jealous. I would be more jealous if I wasn't so happy for her, but it's really a terrific book. And Bryn, thank you so much for joining us today. We're thrilled you could make the time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. It's just a pleasure to talk to all three of you. So I'm thrilled to be here.
And you are in Canada, where it's cold and snowy, I should imagine.
I am. I'm in Toronto. I actually just came back from a week on the West Coast, San Diego and LA, which was lovely and sunny and beautiful. And now I'm back in 18 layers. So,
yeah. And that's where you and I met. And as soon as I met you, I knew that we needed to have you on the book talk. I got your book. I'm reading it. It's so good.
Thank you.
It's quick, so I have lots of questions for you. Number one, this was such an interesting thing. I've read quite a few books about the Romanovs, obviously, but when we don't think much about the sisters traditionally, and when we do think about the sisters of the last Tsar of Russia, we tend to think only about Anastasia. What attracted you to Olga's story?
Well, I mean, it's just as you say, the sisters have always kind of like been taken in history books as a unit. They were actually known as Otma, O-T-M-A in their life, which is an amalgamation of their first initials. Mm. And to me, that was a bit of a disservice to all four of the sisters, certainly. And it was also a disservice that whenever we hear about the youngest daughter, Anastasia, it's in the context of the pretenders who followed. And so when I found, and I decided I was going to write about the Romanovs, I was certainly interested in kind of unearthing the story of the daughters. And Olga in particular, because as the eldest, she had this incredibly interesting life, as short as it was. She was a World War I Red Cross nurse and nursed soldiers back to health during the First World War. She had romances and she was this incredibly dynamic young woman who could have given so much more to her country if she had been, if she'd been given the opportunity. So that really was what attracted me to her. She's so dynamic, and we think of her as just sort of one of four.
You certainly have brought her to life in this novel. I know everybody has lots of questions. I have 12, but I'm going to turn it over to Rachel.
I'm going to jump in. So I'm curious about the research, because you're researching presumably in a pandemic. You're researching an incredibly famous family. And I'm curious, what was your research? How did that work? And then how did you manage to bring tension and drama when the end of the story is so well known? What did you do?
That's a great question. I'll start with the research. In terms of the research, one of the things that I love to do when I'm writing a book is to go to the place and visit. Obviously, with this book, because of the pandemic, I was not able to go to St. Petersburg, to go to the palaces where this family lived. But thank goodness for YouTube and for people who post their travelogues online. So I had all of these videos that people had gone to St. Petersburg, they'd gone to the Winter Palace, to Alexander Palace. And so I was able to experience it through that. So like I owe a huge debt of gratitude to anybody who goes to historical sites and takes a travel log there. The Romanovs are also the most documented family in history. So there's a mountain of research about them, including their own diaries. And so for me, that was really kind of where I went to first, was Olga's diaries, which have been translated into English by a historian named Helen Azar. And those really kind of gave me a sense of what I couldn't find in the traditional history books. Olga talks about skinny dipping in the Crimea with her family. And she talks about, romances that she had. And it kind of brought to life this young woman who was not just, a Grand Duchess with a crown on. She was a girl, she was having fun. She was this young teenager who was living her life. And then, sorry, what was the second part of that question?
Oh, so they're so well documented, and everybody knows the tragic end. So how did you build the tension in the story?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, spoiler alert, we all know what happens at the end of the Romanovs. And that tragedy really informed the book. It actually was my starting point. I started knowing the ending. I knew that, yeah, I knew the final scene of that book. And for me, it was all about crafting this story almost where Olga kind of is realizing what her fate is going to be. So it's sort of a slow dawning realization for her about what's happening politically, what's happening to her family, and ultimately the inevitability of what's going to happen. The book opens with a line. It opens with Olga having a conversation with her grandmother, where her grandmother tells her that the only way to have courage is to face the future with grace. And that really is kind of what informed the book going through, is that philosophy of grace.
Oh, I love that. That is powerful.
I know. I'm going to jump in here because that dovetails beautifully. So I wanted to know, what are the themes? I'm assuming grace is one of them. The themes that you really want readers to ride upon and draw out through the story.
Oh, that's a wonderful question. I mean, for me, this is very much a story about family. It is, it's a story of family, and it's a story of family love despite flaws. Olga learns over the course of the book that the family that she's been born into and the privilege that she's been born into is not benefiting everybody equally. And her parents actually are making decisions that are not to the benefit of the people that they purport to rule over and to love. So for me, I mean, that certainly is a theme going through the book, the coming of age of a young girl who realizes that her parents are not infallible. That's certainly one. The other one is devotion to family, devotion to her siblings, and to the sense of duty that she really has going through life, that sense of duty. And again, grace, grace under sort of the cloud and the curtain of tragedy that follows.
Well, it is an amazing, it is a powerful book. It is fascinating, it is beautifully researched, it is very well written, and I am just enjoying it no end. And so thank you for joining us. I'm really so pleased you were able to make time to be here on kind of short notice. We always ask our guests one final question here at the 10-minute book talk. What is bringing you joy right now, Bryn?
You know what's bringing me joy right now? Cut flowers. I went out to the flower shop the other day. As I said, I just came back from a lovely warm climate, and now I'm back in the cold. And so I took my little 6-month-old puppy. We walked down the street and we bought just the most beautiful, I don't even know what they're called. They are like these giant, billowy, lovely flowers that Olga would have had in a cut vase. And so being able to look at the flowers and think of spring to come, that's what's bringing me joy.
I love that. That's great.
I love that. I love that. Yes.
6-month-old puppies are also bringers of joy. Amazing.
Definitely bringers of joy when she's not skimming off the countertop and trying to find treats.
Right.
Joyous too, that's from Brand Joy. Puppies and flowers, my friends. I mean, really, the other thing that's going to bring you joy, go and read this book, The Last Grand Duchess by Bryn Turnbull. Just a pleasure to read. Bryn, thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you, my friends, for being with us at the 10-minute book talk. We will see you next week for more bookish fun. Bye.